Okay, welcome to today's lesson on being an entrepreneur. This is the front board in case you weren't here. Let's get moving on to the lesson. To start off, is it easy to start your own business? Explain why or why not. Well, the point that I think I wanted to make with this question is that it's not really an easy task to do so because there are a lot of things that you need in order to start a business. One of the most important things being that you have to have something that you want to produce, but also you need to have a lot of money invested in that because it's not cheap to start a business. Now, some businesses are cheaper than others if it involves using more talent than it is producing a product, but definitely businesses can be very expensive, and that's one of the big reasons that more businesses aren't created really. But we're going to talk about the idea of being an entrepreneur today, and do you have what it takes? Our targets. I can explain what an entrepreneur does and why it is a risk, and I can identify all of the factors that an entrepreneur must consider when starting a business, including the factors of production, which are land, labor, and capital. Now, what is an entrepreneur? By definition, an entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. In other words, it's somebody who runs their own business, and in doing so, they are bringing on a financial risk because there's a lot of their own money that is invested in this. In other words, they're placing their own money in a company in hopes that in the end, the money they put in is going to come back in greater amounts. So your thought is that if you invest $50,000 into a business, that you're going to make back hundreds of thousands of dollars on that, or else you wouldn't really want to put your money into it and all of your time as well. Now, what is the big risk associated with it? Well, you can be successful, and that's something that obviously all entrepreneurs want to have happen, but the reality is that it doesn't always work that way. Now, if you are successful, you get loads of money and maybe even become famous like some of these well-known entrepreneurs. Definitely not the only ones that are out there, but there are a few of them. But if you aren't successful, you aren't really that well known because, well, your business closed and you're probably out of money. So there definitely is a risk involved, and I want you to think about this from a serious perspective as well. I kind of play it off with the piggy bank being on E, but imagine that you're a family and you've really invested all of your money into this. You've invested your savings into it. Maybe even your house is on the line with this business, and your business collapses. You've lost everything. So there definitely is a risk associated with being an entrepreneur. Now, what a good entrepreneur will tell you is that there's not as much risk because you're smart with how you do it. So just keep that in mind. It's not like it's a throwing your money out to nothing. It's definitely a planned risk. Now, with being an entrepreneur, this is where we need to take down a couple more notes here. You need to have some sort of a business plan. Now, in this class and in this lesson, we're not going to be looking at business plans like a real entrepreneur would because they'd be looking at a lot more numerical data than we really have for this situation. I want to make it simple so that you guys get the general idea behind what we're looking for with a business plan. A business plan essentially is the blueprint for a company. So let's imagine we're talking about Pizza Hut. What Pizza Hut is going to do here is they need to figure out a lot of different things included in their business, including what is it that you want to sell. Now, pizza is obviously a part of it, but you also need to put in the other products there as well. Pizza Hut, given that it delivers in most locations, or many locations, I shouldn't say most because I'm not sure about their entire business model, but delivery would also be something that they're providing in their business. This is actually known as a service. We're going to come back to this in a few minutes. You could also say that there's a waiting service that they have here as well, and other things of that nature. We'll get to those details here shortly. Who is your target audience? In other words, who are you going to get to buy your product? That's something you really need to consider in this. Are you looking at families? Are you looking at other things? We're going to look at this in more depth as well. What area are you looking to serve? Now, some companies, like a pizza company, is going to be much more local. It's going to be pretty close, especially if it's a delivery pizza place. They actually typically have a radius, and they'll say, we deliver within 5 miles or something along those lines. Now, and maybe it's probably actually more than 5 miles, but when you get into some businesses, they're international. Clothing companies are national. So when you think about those, it depends on what type of business you have as to what area you're going to be actually serving. You also need to consider what is the money. What are the numbers telling you about this market? Do you have the market in the area and with the target audience that you're looking for to actually make this profitable? Because remember, it's all about profits. It's not just making money and selling. You have to actually make more money than you're spending in order to make it worthwhile. And sorry for some of these pictures getting cut off here due to the bottom of the page here. But you also have to consider, do we have the land for this? Like, do we have a location to actually start this business? Because if you want to have a Pizza Hut, you need to have a good location for it. Because with business, location is a very, very important aspect of this. And can you afford it too? Now, another big thing you need to consider before getting started is, who is your competition in the area? Who are you really vying for or whose business are you vying for here, and who are you competing with? With Pizza Hut, they have to look at, is Papa John's in the area? Are there other places? I mean, in the Bridgeville area alone, I counted a couple years ago 9 pizza places. Now, I'm not sure if they all exist still today, but 9 pizza places just in the Bridgeville area within probably, I don't know, maybe a 2-mile, 3-mile stretch there. That's a lot of pizza places. So consider who your competition is, and really, can you overcome them, and can you beat them? And then lastly, how are you going to crack in and actually get people to start buying your product over somebody else's? Now, Pizza Hut's a nationally known chain, so it'll be a lot easier for them. But imagine you want to start a local pizza shop. How do you make it so that you can beat Pizza Hut? How do you make it so that you can beat Papa John's? Or, I'm sorry, not Pizza Hut, but Papa John's. And how can you actually get in there? Maybe be selling coupons is a way you can break in. Maybe you're going to sell a different type. Let's say maybe instead of selling like delivery pizza quality, you're going to make it real high-end. Like a new pizza place that actually is in the Upper St. Clair area. So that's something that you could consider as well. Now, let's start looking at some more details here. So the business plan is kind of like a general idea here from what we're going to do in this class at least. Let's look at the specifics. Are you producing a good or a service? What is the difference between the two? Well, pizza is a good, delivery is a service. Why? Pizza is a physical item. You can have that. You get it from somebody literally. You can hold on to it. Whereas a service, it's not something that's tangible. It's something that you can't touch. It's somebody who's providing something for you. They're basically doing something for you that you don't want to do. So in the case of delivery, they're making it so that you don't have to drive and get your own pizza. They're going to take it directly to you. That is an example of a service. There are many services out there, and to be real here, in our modern society in America, really the service industry is becoming very, very significant, as seen by computer help and things like that. I mean, education is another service too. Now, another question that we need to be asking, and this is getting on to, in our notes here, to the first economic question: what will be produced? Now, for your pizza company, you would need to consider a lot of these things. Pizza Hut is not just pizza. They also have salad, they have breadsticks, cheese sticks, wings. They also have some pasta. What are the things you're going to be producing? They also have delivery. You could say that their waiting service is also another service that they're providing to you. If they have games that are there, they're providing entertainment. If you're a different type of restaurant, you have live entertainment, that's something that you would want to consider as well. There's a lot of different things to think about here with what are you actually producing beyond just the basic Pizza Hut produces pizza. Second economic question: how will they be produced? So what are you going to be producing them in? Now, with Pizza Hut, they're probably going to use more generic pizza ovens. Now, let's say you want to create a higher-end pizza company. You might say, oh, I want to use better pizza brick ovens with wood-fire grills. You need to consider this too. Are you going to have high-paying chefs in your restaurant, or do you want to just hire somebody who's a cook and has some cooking experience, but not necessarily somebody has the educational background in this? There's a lot of details on this. This is going to even talk about your ingredients, things of that nature too. So how is it going to be produced? Who's going to make it? How are you going to make it, with all of those details related? How much or how many will be produced? You're going to look at the statistics of who lives in your area. What area are you looking to serve? How large scale do you want this to be? Now, typically businesses want to start off small because you need to make sure that you can actually make it work. Then from there they grow and they start spreading out, and that's how you get some of these companies that become national and even international brands, is because they started off small, it worked well, and then they spread out. So you need to consider that. For a pizza business, as I mentioned before, they might only deliver to a certain radius around where they are, and that's going to be the area that you're really looking to serve. This will dictate a lot of things. How much do you need to be producing of your item? If you're an international clothing brand, you really need to produce a lot. You're going to have warehouses. You're going to have a lot of stock just in case. So that's something that you really need to consider here. Who is going to get these goods and services? I alluded to this earlier when I mentioned the thing about your target audience. Who is it that you're targeting? Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. You could say there's an age range. You want to have people who are, in their teens. That's who you're really targeting with, let's say, a clothing line. Gender, is it male or female based, or is it both? It can be both, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like with a restaurant, I'd say that it's really targeting a lot of different people. Socioeconomic status is another one. Are you targeting this as being something that's a high quality good, or that it's being more of a cheaper good that all people can afford? If it's a high quality good, you need to make sure that you put it in an area in which people will be able to afford it. Having a really, really high-end restaurant, boutique, something along those lines in a very, very poor neighborhood probably isn't going to be the best way to organize that. And on the other hand, if you're in a very affluent community where people are making a lot of money, that's what affluent really means, people have more money, you need to be very careful about putting something that's a really low quality good because it's probably not as desirable. So think about that with some of the lower quality stores that you have. I mean, who is going to want to be buying these? And it's really going to connect back to what you should, where you should be putting your business. Now, the last section here on the back of your note guide is on the factors of production. What are the factors of production? Well, we have land, labor, and capital. Let's start with land. Land refers to basically what land you literally need for your business. If you're talking about a pizza shop, you're going to say that we need to have our restaurant space, we need to have a parking lot. That's really all the land you need from that perspective. But you also need your raw materials, which are basically your ingredients. So tomatoes, any grain that you would need for making the pizza crust. Now, sometimes people aren't going to really get this on their own and get it fresh. They're really going to be getting it from a store, so it wouldn't fit directly in with land. But that's something to consider. If you're a very large corporation, you would need warehouse spacing, as you can see here on the bottom, and other buildings too. So consider that to be a very something that would vary depending on the level of your business and how large it is. Now, labor is the second one. What types of workers do you need? Well, you need people from the top CEOs down to the construction workers and everything in between. And not that I'm saying construction workers are low, but I'm just saying everything you could think about, from the people who run it on the day-to-day basis, the people who are kind of helping out with the company on a small scale. Like a construction worker might not be there all the time, but if you need to do renovations, they'll be there on some occasions. Cleaning services would be labor. If you need receptionists, if you need waiters and waitresses in a restaurant, if you need cooks, anything that you can think of along these lines. Let's say you're a company that produces clothing. You might even need delivery drivers. So all the labor that you would need needs to be thought of in this category. It's an important thing to understand because there's a lot of labor, and in most companies in America, and this is starting to shift a little bit here, or it could shift in some companies. The number one cost, though, that they really have in making their product is the labor. So labor is very important, and you want to make sure that you're as efficient as possible when it comes to labor, because efficiency results in less money that you're really making in the long run. And lastly, we have capital. Capital refers to all of the man-made things that you need to make your business run. So when you talk about machines, they definitely fit in this category. So a copy machine is an example, and that's just one minor example. I mean, imagine how many computers some companies have. That's a whole lot of money you're spending on that, and that's only the ones that you really see very clearly. Think about everything you have inside of a building that isn't natural there. Toilets, sinks, outlets. I mean, all of the electrical, all of the wiring, all of the lights in the ceiling, everything that you can think of like that, that all fits into the capital, because it's all stuff that you're going to need to buy in preparation to make it so that your business will be able to succeed in the long run. So that fits under the capital. And most importantly in the capital category is money, because you need to have money in order to buy all of these things. The one tricky question that I've been asked almost every single year is, where do robots fit in? What if you had a robot? Would that be a labor? Would that be capital? That would be capital, because it's something that you're purchasing. So think about, or that's man-made. But think about capital as being a very, very important aspect of a business. Can you actually make this work with the money? Is there so much money that you would need to invest in this if you couldn't make it profitable? And that's something that's very important to think about here. So when you think about some of your businesses as we get moving next week, make sure that there are businesses that you can make profitable and that really will be worthwhile and will make you money in the end without having to spend too much money on it. Now, there's a couple mental sweat questions you guys can look at, but something I want you to be thinking about here going forward for the weekend. What type of business would be good for you to create? Now, you're going to be working on this next week as a project, but think about your interests, think about demand, and think like an entrepreneur. How can we make money effectively? It's not about making it a risk that's an unreasonable risk. It's about a planned risk that you know is most likely going to work out. Is there a chance it won't? Yes. But it's worth the investment. It's worth the risk, because you know that in the end, your $50,000 could turn into $1 million. That would be what we're looking for, is a good investment. So I hope you have a better understanding now as to what an entrepreneur does and what all the things that they really need to consider in creating their business.